Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What is up, guys? It is TNT, Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL Edition, Week 14. Cannot believe we are into Week 14. With me, as always, is fine citizen and co-host, Mr. Jacob Workman. Jacob, what's going on, man?
Not a lot. Lions did the job and took care of Carr, so Jameis is playing. I like what happened in that game. It was actually like the best case scenario of all of the worlds. It was awesome. So other than that, Lions got the win. Pretty good week. Hit my lock, which is about all I can say because I missed about every other pick, but it hit the lock. So I would say it was pretty good. What were your thoughts on the week?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. There were a couple decent games that were a little bit surprising. We'll jump into those here shortly. For those of you who watched last week's broadcast, we had a special edition with a bunch of guys on. We had Carter, who's been on a few times. We had Ike, who was a first-time viewer, or I should say first-time visitor, long-time listener. for what it's worth.
His Chiefs. How do you do Taylor like that? That's bullshit. You don't do Taylor like that.
That was rough, especially in the frozen tundra of Lambeau. Yeah, luckily for the Lions, they're still 3 games back, so I don't think it's going to matter much. But yes.
But the Packers they're such a crazy team. Like at the beginning of the year, I was like, yeah, I think they're actually not bad, and then they started decent, and then they went horrendous, and now they're like world beaters again. Like
yeah.
I mean, they beat the Lions and Chiefs in consecutive games. Like that's pretty impressive. So
yeah. Jordan Love had like a 3-week stretch where he just kind of forgot how to play football, and now he's back at it. So
yeah.
Interesting team that's going on right now. But yeah, so we had Carter on, we had Ike on. Taxis was going to join us, but unfortunately had a scheduling conflict because he is working in retail. And for those of you that have worked in retail, it is insane hours right now with the holiday season. So he did provide us his picks after the show before the game started. So we'll share that here shortly. And then Scott, my stepdad, joins, who is my actual stepdad, but we joked is Carter's dad because they are both huge Notre Dame and Colts fans. So special thanks to those guys for joining. You will definitely be seeing those guys again at some point on the show. Just recapping the results here from last week. Jake went 4-8-1. I went 5-7-1. Carter went 5-7-1. Both Ike and Taxis went 6-6-1. And Scott, who I believe did the best in our college show, also did the best in our NFL.
He was second. Carter was the
second.
Best.
Carter was the best.
He was over 500 and very good though.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so
hit his lock.
Yeah, and he hit his lock. Yeah. So Scott finished 7-5-1. He did the best out of all of us. So overall, not too bad. Jake did hit his lock with Detroit. I hit my lock with Miami. Carter missed his lock with Pittsburgh. Scott missed his lock with Jacksonville. Ike hit his lock with Atlanta, and Taxis pushed his lock with the Chargers. So for total records, we've got Jake sitting at 95, 95-3. He is at 500. So
that's all I can ask. That's all I can ask. 500.
And I am sitting at 94, 96-3. So I'm only 1 game behind here. So let's jump right into it. We're going to recap a couple of the games from this previous week, just because we had some crazy games, starting with the San Francisco game. So San Francisco gets the win over the Philadelphia Eagles 42-19 in Philadelphia. San Francisco's Brock Purdy finished 19-27 for 314 and 4 touchdowns. McCaffrey had 17 carries for 93 yards and a score. Deebo Samuel was the leading receiver with 4 catches for 116 and 2 touchdowns. On the Philly side of the ball, Jalen Hurts finished 26 of 45. Not a great showing, 298 and a touchdown. He also led the rushing attack, which was really surprising. He had 7 carries for 20 yards in the score. That 7 carries for 20 yards was the leading rusher. So DeAndre Swift had a very off game. A.J. Brown was the leading receiver. He finished with 8 catches for 114 yards. Very A.J. Brown game. Philly struck twice in the first quarter, but couldn't finish drives. So they ended both those drives in 2 field goals from Jake Elliott before the 49ers went on to score 3 straight touchdowns, finishing with a total of 6 in the game. 49ers get some revenge from that NFC title game with a win, and now are just one game back from home field advantage throughout the playoffs. With a win this week and a loss by Green Bay or Minnesota, the Niners will clinch a playoff berth, and they will be the first team to do so. The Eagles need to bounce back as they have the Cowboys in Dallas Sunday night, and a loss there, along with San Francisco beating Seattle, would drop them from first in the conference to fifth. So what were your thoughts on the game? Surprising thing to me, like I just mentioned, was that rushing attack. Philly could just never find the end zone, and they couldn't get the things going on the ball, but on the ground. But what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was just more how it switched after the first quarter. Philly kind of did to the Niners in the first quarter what they did to the Rams. They had the ball for like 11 minutes, and then the game just completely flipped after that. So I was a little surprised by what happened. Kind of chalk it up to the NFL being the NFL. I don't think this hurts Philly whatsoever. If anything, it probably is huge motivation in a game this week really they don't need the motivation for, but Sirianni is going to use that as motivation since they lost. I don't think it's too detrimental to them, though. But it was a great game. I mean, it's impressive what the 49ers did, but it doesn't mean anything come playoff time. So we'll once we get there, we'll see the real game that matters. But great game. You have to be impressed, though, still.
For sure. Next game we're going to recap here is the Chiefs-Packers game. So we just talked about the Packers here briefly. The Green Bay Packers got a win in Lambeau against the AFC best Kansas City Chiefs. The final score of that game was 27-19. On the Green Bay side of the ball, Jordan Love finished 25 of 36 for 267 and 3 scores. A.J. Dillon had 18 carries for 73 yards, and Romeo Doubs finished with 4 catches for 72 yards. On the Kansas City side of the ball, Pat Mahomes finished 21 of 33 for 210 yards, a score, and a pick. Isaiah Pacheco had a great game. He finished with 18 carries for 110 yards and a touchdown. And Travis Kelce led the reception category with 4 grabs for 81 yards. Kansas City played from behind the entire game, which was surprising to me. They gave up a touchdown in the first and second quarters and only responded with field goals. Third quarter touchdown from Pacheco came 6 minutes into the second half, but a failed 2-point conversion left it 14-12. And Green Bay responded with another touchdown to take it to extend their lead. Kansas City brought it within 2 to start the fourth, but 2 field goals from Anders Carlson sealed the win for the Green Bay Packers. The Packers looked all but finished until a couple weeks ago, and they've now won 3 straight. We just talked about that over the Chargers, the Lions, and now the Chiefs. And Jordan Love has gone for 8 touchdowns and 0 picks in that span. The Chiefs are now 2-3 over the past 5 weeks and seem to be struggling to get their offense going as of late. Do you think this is a mid-year slump or cause for concern as we start to approach the playoffs?
I don't know. The Chiefs are one of those teams that, to me, they're like the Golden State team with Durant. Like, I feel like they don't care about the regular season. Like, I truly don't think that it matters to them. I mean, obviously they want to win the games, but I don't think this is going to be that big of a deal. They're still 8-4, and the key thing I think we can say about them is they have a healthy quarterback. It seems the AFC is losing every good quarterback imaginable. So, hell, I would even rest Mahomes at this point, just save him for the playoffs, because I don't know if any other team's gonna have a quarterback when we get to the playoffs. It's crazy what's happening in the AFC with injuries. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think they'll get it going. Obviously, the questions are still there with their weapons at receiver, but I don't know. They're a team that, in the end, I just always trust will be there and perform at their best. I mean, Mahomes only threw for 189 yards in that game. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, with Mahomes and Reed both, they don't have any big names at receiver right now, but of the 2 people in the NFL that can make no-name receivers look good, it's those 2 guys. So I'm not too terribly worried about it. A little interesting that they've hit a little bit of a skid here in the midseason, but again, to your point, does it really matter? They seem to have a pretty firm control on the AFC West right now. So the last game that we'll take a look at here is Jacksonville and Cincinnati. That game happened last night, and that one was a barn burner. The Cincinnati Bengals came to life to win 34-31 in overtime over the Jags. Jake Browning played absolutely lights out. He finished 32 for 37 for 354 and a score. Joe Mixon led the Bengals ground attack with 19 carries for 68 yards and 2 scores, and Jamar Chase had a very Jamar Chase game, finishing with 11 catches, 149, and a touchdown. On the Jacksonville side of the ball, Trevor Lawrence finished 22 for 29 for 258 and 2 scores. Travis Etienne had 11 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown, and Evan Ingram led the pass catchers with 9 catches, 82 yards, and a score. This game went back and forth all night. They traded touchdowns twice in the first half, and they went into break 14-14. A huge 76-yard score from Jamar Chase 3 minutes into the second gave the Bengals the lead, but 2 quick scores from the Jags swung it back to Jacksonville 28-21 going into the fourth. A Bengals touchdown and field goal then gave Cincinnati the lead. The Jags were marching down the field when left tackle Walker Little got pushed back into the backfield and stepped on Trevor Lawrence's ankle. Trevor tried getting up and went down right away and had to be helped off the field. So with 26 seconds left, Brandon McManus did hit a 40-yarder to tie it up and take it to overtime. And then both teams just absolutely stalled, and it took 1:45 left into overtime before Evan McPherson hit a 48-yard game winner. Early reports are that Lawrence suffered a high ankle sprain, and while Doug Peterson painted an optimistic view today, this injury typically sidelines players for multiple weeks. This is not something that you just bounce back from within a week or two, especially when it's a quarterback and it's on his back plant foot. With the Colts and Texans at 7-5 right now and breathing down Jacksonville's neck in the division, how do you think this impacts the AFC playoff picture?
Yeah, I would have to go look schedule by schedule to see what I really thought, but it definitely opens the door. I mean, Houston and Indy are both playing very well. I think if I remember right, I thought someone said last week that Indy's schedule is really favorable the rest of the season, but I don't know. Like it's as wide open as it's going to be now. And yeah, high ankle sprain generally is a couple weeks, and we're only a couple weeks away from the end of the season. So there's a lot of impact here, and the Jags might end up. Well, they would probably still end up a wild card team, but to not be at home and get the conference or the division championship is a lot.
Yeah, so this is interesting on both sides of the ball. So the Colts remaining games, they have the Bengals in Cincinnati, then they go back home and play the Steelers in Indy, hit the road again to play the Falcons in Atlanta. And then on New Year's Eve, they play the Raiders in Indy and finish up with the Texans at home. So that Texans Colts game, last game of the year, is going to be a big one. On Houston's side of the equation, they have the Jets in New York this week. Next week, they travel to Tennessee to play the Titans. Then they head back home to play the Browns and then the Titans again. And then, of course, they finish that game in Indy with the Colts. So both of these teams could very much step into a situation where the winner of that last game on January 7th could decide who ends up winning the AFC South.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting as we move into the end of the year. It's hard to believe that there's 5 games left in the season.
I know, it's crazy.
All right, guys. Well, that's the recap for last week. Let's jump right into week 14 picks here. Our Thursday night matchup features the 2-10 New England Patriots, who hit the road after getting shut out 0-6 against the Chargers last week, to face the 7-5 Pittsburgh Steelers, who are looking to bounce back after a 10-24 home loss to the Arizona Cardinals. The Patriots sit well in last place in the AFC East and have now lost 5 straight, while the Steelers maintain second in the AFC North and are 2 games back from the Ravens for first in the division. Pittsburgh is favored by 5.5.
What a treat to get this on Thursday night. Like,
yeah,
everyone's looking forward to this one. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. I don't know. This is a crazy game to me. 5.5 is probably too many points for either of these teams to win by, but I am gonna go Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of backups because it's going to be Trubisky and Zappy. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm going to take the Steelers here. New England is just in shambles right now, and if I have to pick between these two quarterbacks, I'm taking Trubisky over Zappy. So I'm with you. I'll go with Pittsburgh. The first of our 1 p.m. games features the 6-6 LA Rams, who got a 36-19 victory over the Cleveland Browns last week in LA as they hit the road to the East Coast to face off against Lamar Jackson and the 9-3 Baltimore Ravens, who are returning from a bye week and have won their last 2. The Rams are on a 3-game winning streak and have moved into second in the NFC West, while the Ravens maintain their grip on the AFC North and are 2 games ahead of the Steelers. Baltimore is favored by 7.5.
Yeah, I talked last week. It was the Lions nostalgia, Schwartz versus Stafford. Stafford, there was one moment in the game that was absolutely beautiful. It was on all the highlights. Stafford completely changed the play, audible to gun, and just Nakua like 70 yards down the middle for a touchdown right in Schwartz's face, picked him apart. It was awesome to see. And Stafford, you could tell he just read the whole thing. It was a beautiful sight. The Rams are healthy, playing very well. I just don't like them at 1:00 on the road on the East Coast. 7.5 seems like a lot, but I think I'm taking Baltimore. I think this is a letdown game for the Rams.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this because 7.5 is a lot, and I can see this game being a one-score win, but it's hard for me to go against Baltimore at home. The Rams have looked great as of late, but this is a really tough defense to move the ball on. And I think Odell may come into this game feeling like it's a little bit of a revenge game as well. So I'm going to take Baltimore here at home. You look like you're getting some hot news over there.
No, I was just reading something.
All right. So next we have the absolutely atrocious 1-11 Carolina Panthers, who continue their road trip after an 18-21 loss to the Bucks as they match up against the 5-7 New Orleans Saints, who stay home after losing 28-33 to your Detroit Lions. Both of these teams are struggling to find W's as the Panthers are on a 5-game skid and the Saints have lost the last 3. Carolina continues having the worst record in the NFL and is in last place in the NFC South, while the Saints are sitting in third based on a tiebreaker with Tampa Bay. The Saints are favored by 5.5.
So I'm not seeing anything that confirms Jameis is starting in this game. I don't.
The last thing that I read earlier today was that Jameis was going to be the starter, but it's still up in the air. I think there is a potential for Carr to come back.
So I've got to throw our caveat here because I have a rule. So
if Jameis starts,
Jameis, yes, if Jameis plays, I'm on the Saints. If it is Carr, give me the Panthers.
Fair enough. I don't really care who the quarterback is. I'm taking the Saints here, especially with King Jameis, because this offense does seem to have more spark when he's in there and Carr's not playing. But it is the Panthers. I know it's a division game, so maybe there's a little bit of a swing with Carolina, but I'm going to take the Saints here. Next up, we have the 77-5, Indianapolis Colts continuing their own road trip. Yeah, I know. That's a shitload of wins. The 7-5 Indianapolis Colts continue their own road trip after getting a 31-28 overtime victory in Nashville last week against the Titans, as they face off against the 6-6 Cincinnati Bengals, who are riding high after their overtime win over the Jaguars last night. Indy is one of the more surprising teams in the league right now, as they are on a 4-game winning streak and only 1 game behind Jacksonville in the AFC South, despite losing Anthony Richardson earlier in the season, while the Bengals sit in last in the AFC North, but are only 1 game behind the Steelers for second in the AFC North. Indy is favored by 1.5.
This is a tough one. I think I'm going Colts. Give me the Colts to win this. I can get the cover.
Yep, I'm taking the Colts too. Steichen continues to do an absolutely incredible job with this team despite injuries. I think this could be a little bit of a letdown game for Cincy after they got the big win in Jacksonville. I look for Zach Moss to have a big game here. Next up, we have the 8-4 Jacksonville Jaguars hitting the road after losing in overtime to the Bengals last night to face the 7-5 Cleveland Browns, who return home after a 17-point loss to the Rams last week. Jacksonville will likely be without QB Trevor Lawrence as he nurses a high ankle sprain, while the Browns look to turn it around after losing the last 2. The Jags maintain their first place position in the AFC South, but have zero room for error with both the Colts and Texans just 1 game back, while the Browns are in their own tight situation as they sit tied by record, but are in third in the AFC North behind the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns are favored by 3.
Yeah, so I obviously watched this team last week because I watched the Rams game. Flacco wasn't bad. He did throw a really bad pick late in the game, but at that point, the score was kind of irrelevant anyway. This time of year, you're probably going to get some shitty weather up there too. I think I'm going to go Cleveland with the Schwartz's D against, who is it? Beathard? CJ Beathard?
CJ Beathard, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going with Schwartz and the D again.
They are calling for rain. That makes a difference. But I am taking Cleveland here. I can't see Lawrence playing. Obviously, Schwartz is going to leave CJ Beathard having nightmares with Myles Garrett and company after this one's over. So I'm going to take Cleveland as well. The 5-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers head to the ATL after securing a win over the Panthers last week to face off against their division rival Atlanta Falcons, who sit 6-6 and have won their last 2 after beating the Jets in New York last week 13-8. Atlanta maintains first place in the NFC South by 1 game ahead of the Bucs, so this game does have playoff implications. Atlanta is favored by 2.5.
Jesus. These games get me every week. Let's go Tampa outright.
Tampa outright. I like it. I'm going to take Atlanta here at home. The Bucs are dealing with some injuries. Atlanta's played better at home than on the road. My only concern is there are a couple of Atlanta's key defensive guys were out and they very well could not be playing on Sunday. But if Art Smith controls the clock, they should be able to secure at least a 3-point win. So I'm going to take the Falcons. All right, the 9-3 Detroit Lions continue their road trip after beating the Saints 33-28 last Sunday, as they now head to Chi-Town to face off against the hated division rival Chicago Bears, who are 4-8 and coming off a bye in previous win against the Minnesota Vikings. Detroit maintains a 3-game lead in the NFC North, while the Bears sit last in the division. Detroit is favored by 3.
Yeah, I just played them a few weeks ago at Ford Field and had a incredible comeback win at the end. Never would have dreamed we were winning that game. It was very impressive the way we finished that to win. These games terrify me because Fields runs all over us every time we play. So for your FanDuel lineup, it'd probably be smart to play Justin Fields this week. I do think the Lions are going to be able to win and cover this game, though. I think Chicago showed their best shot when they played us a few weeks ago. I think we'll adjust to that, and I think we'll rebound and get the cover.
Yep, exact notes I have here. Eat them up, taking Detroit here. I think they lean into the ground game. Fields is going to have a field day, pardon the pun, but he doesn't ever get any support around him. So let him run wild. You know, Detroit's got way more weapons on offense, so I'm going to take Detroit here. All right, the 7-5 Houston Texans head to the Big Apple after beating the Broncos 22-17 at home last week to face the 4-8 New York Jets, who took an L from the Atlanta Falcons 8-13. The Texans are deep into an AFC South arms race as they are within one game of first behind the Jags and tied with the Colts, while the Jets join the Patriots and the Panthers for longest losing streak in the NFL, currently at 5 games, and have all but finished up their season. Currently sitting in third in the AFC East. Quick note, Ike's favorite player in the NFL, Tim Boyle, has been waived by the Jets in favor of Boise State Bronco legend Brett Rypien, who is now on his 3rd team this season after short stints with both the Rams and Seahawks. Houston is favored by 6.5.
Jesus. I took the Jets last week, and that was probably the biggest regret I've ever had in my life. Let's go Houston.
I know too much about you to know that that's not true, but okay. I am taking the Texans. This may be a tough cover for them because of the Jets defense, but the Jets just can't get anything going on offense. The other thing that leans me towards Houston is the Jets and Texans run similar defensive schemes, so they likely aren't going to be throwing much at Stroud that he's not used to seeing on a weekly basis in practice. I think that gives Houston and CJ Stroud a little bit of an edge, so I'm going to take Houston. All right, the first of our 4 p.m. games features the 6-6 Seattle Seahawks, who head back west after losing 35-41 to the Dallas Cowboys last Thursday as they face their division rival San Francisco 49ers, who are returning home after a huge statement win against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. The Seahawks have lost 3 straight and slipped to 3rd in the NFC West behind both the Rams and the Niners, who are on a 4-game winning streak and have a 3-game lead in the division now. San Fran is favored by 10.5.
This is a tough one. God. Seattle played very well against Dallas last week. I don't think they can go to San Francisco and do. I'm gonna go with the Niners to cover even though it is large. I think they'll cover that.
Yeah, it's a large spread, decent size for a division game, especially. I'm still going to go with San Fran. They won 31-13 against the Seahawks just a couple weeks ago. I think Geno Smith comes back down to earth a little bit. He did explode last week. A lot of really big plays against a really good defense, but I don't know that they can do that twice in a row. They're used to seeing what this team does, so I'm going to take San Francisco to cover. Okay, 2 teams returning from bye week here as the 6-6 Minnesota Vikings face off against the 5-7 Las Vegas Raiders. Both teams had brief periods of heating up before cooling down the past couple of weeks. Both these teams have lost their last 2. Minnesota is in 2nd place, but tied with the streaking Green Bay Packers in the NFC North, while the Raiders are 1 game back from 2nd behind the Broncos and Chargers in the AFC West. Minnesota is favored by 3.
Another interesting quarterback scenario here. There was the talk of what are they doing with Dobbs? We got Aiden O'Connell. I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm taking the Raiders. I like them to cover, and I actually kind of like them to win this game.
Okay, I'm going to take the Vikings here. Their defense has improved a little bit as of late. They should be able to get after O'Connell, and Justin Jefferson is back, which I think is going to give a boost to Justin Dobbs. So going to go with the Vikings. I believe Justin Jefferson is back. The last that I read, he was going to be back this week.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. All right. The 6-6 Denver Broncos continue their AFC road trip after losing 17-22 to the Houston Texans last week as they meet their division rival LA Chargers, who are 5-7 and returning home after what can only be described as an atrocious 6-0 win last week in New England. Denver's win streak ended last week, but they do maintain second in the AFC West, one game ahead of the Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 2.5.
These games, we're getting down to these close divisional games. They're very tough to pick, especially when I don't think I said last week the Chargers would lose to New England. They'd fire Staley, but clearly that didn't happen. They managed to win 6-0. I'm going Denver. I think Denver will win this one outright.
Yeah, I'm going to take Denver here in the points as well. I just don't trust this Chargers team. Denver's been playing better as of late. Russ has plenty of experience playing against the Chargers. Denver's just been the better team the last 6 weeks, so I'm going to roll with Denver. The 6-6 Buffalo Bills are coming off bye week and hitting the road to Kansas City to meet the 8-4 Chiefs, who return home after losing to the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau on Sunday night. The Bills previously lost to the Eagles in Philadelphia and now sit 3 games behind Miami for first in the AFC East, while the Chiefs have lost 2 of the last 3 but maintain a 2-game lead over Denver for first in the AFC West. KC is favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I'm still going to ride with the Chiefs here. They're coming off a loss. They generally don't lose back-to-back, and it's a home game back in Arrowhead, and I'm still pretty skeptical of the Bills, so I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Yep, taking KC here as well. Both these offenses are having a bit of a down year, particularly with these past couple weeks for the Chiefs, but KC's got the better defense, in my opinion, and being at home, I think, gives them the nod, so I'll take KC. Sunday night showdown is a big one. 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles head to Arlington after losing 19-42 to the 49ers to match up against the division rival 9-3 Dallas Cowboys, who are coming off a 41-35 win against the Seahawks last Thursday. This game has big playoff implications as the Eagles now only sit 1 game ahead of Dallas in the NFC East. And as we discussed earlier, with a loss to the Cowboys and a San Francisco win this week, the Philadelphia Eagles would slide from 1st to 5th in the NFC. Still a lot of time left, but it is worth noting that this is going to have some playoff implications. Dallas is favored by 3.5.
Yeah, I kind of ruined this one earlier because I said Philly, extra motivation. I like Philly to come out and win this one outright. I think this is going to be a very good game, though. A lot of implications here when it comes to Philly, Dallas, 49ers, Detroit even. Like, there's a lot of home field stuff going into this game. So, honestly, it's probably in my best interest to root for Dallas to win this game for the sake of the Lions. But I think Philly will end up winning this one outright.
And big shocker here, I'm taking my boys. I can see this being a 3-point win, but we haven't lost a game at home yet. We've got some revenge to handle after losing a tight one in Philly a couple weeks ago. If they're going to control the division, this is the time to do it. This is step 1 in the process. So I'm going to take Dallas here. All right, we've got 2 Monday night games this week. The first of them features a 4-8 Tennessee Titans team who hits the road after losing to the Colts at home in overtime as they meet the 9-3 Miami Dolphins, who just finished thumping the Commanders 45-15 in Washington. Tennessee has yet to win a road game this year, while the Dolphins have let you lose a home game and are currently on a 3-game winning streak. Miami leads the AFC East by 3 games, while the Titans are solidified in last place in the AFC South. Miami is favored by 13.5.
Yeah, they're on their home field. I like Miami here. I think they keep it rolling. I don't think Tennessee has anywhere near any amount of weapons that they can stay in this game, and the Dolphins' defense is pretty solid. So I think this ends up being a rout.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, a little bit last week, maybe the week before, but the transition from Miami's offense being the talk of the league to their defense is starting to look really good at the right time. I'm taking Miami here as well. They've just been playing on fire as of late. Tennessee's just kind of going through the motions at this point. It should be another high scoring affair for the Dolphins. The second of our Monday night matchups is the 6-6 Green Bay Packers, who hit the road after a huge home win against the Chiefs Sunday night as they head to New York to meet the 4-8 New York Giants, who are coming off a bye week. Green Bay has now won 3 in a row, while the Giants have quietly won their last 2 games and are looking for 3 straight. The Packers sit in 3rd in a tiebreaker behind the Vikings, while the Giants are a half game ahead of the Commanders for 3rd in the NFC East. Green Bay is favored by 6.5.
This is an awful game. Like, no one wants to watch this game. I
I don't think anybody wants to watch either of these Monday night games, to be honest with you.
At least Miami's exciting, but oh God. I think I'm gonna go a little off here. I think I'm gonna take the Giants to cover the 6.5. I don't think they win the game, but that seems like a lot of points.
Yeah, I'm taking Green Bay. Jordan Love's been playing really well the past few weeks. The defense has been playing well against the pass, so that should give DeVito some problems. So I'm going to go with the Pack here to get their 4th in a row. All right, it is time. Bye week teams this week are only Arizona and Washington, and then I believe that should be the last week of the season for bye teams. Locks. I am 12-1 in locks this year. Workman is 10-3, so we are both performing very well. Jake, who is your lock for this week?
I've been going back and forth here. Trying to keep my record intact here, not fall off.
You're telling me.
I know I'm trying to keep up with you here. Let's God, not a lot of them that I'm huge fans of. I think I want Baltimore -7.5.
All right. Locking it in.
All right.
All right. I am going to go tried and true here. Miami Dolphins. They've been doing well for me this year when I've selected them as a lock. They've taken care of business at home all year. I see no problem. They can't get a 2-touchdown win over this Tennessee Titans team. So lock me in on Miami over Tennessee.
All right, so two big locks for us here. We hopefully we can keep this going. Go to 13-1 and 11-3. Those are still great percentages on the locks.
Yeah, especially for picking on Tuesdays, which we talk about quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is it for week 14. Jake, you got any other comments before we jump off here?
No, not really. Basically, hopefully the Lions can go to Chicago and get a win. We're still battling for the number 1 seed, which is kind of crazy to think. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, should be a good game. My birthday is on Saturday, so Dak Prescott, please go get me a win on Sunday for my birthday. I would really appreciate it. Yeah, should be a big game.
He's not into your birthday.
I'll be sweating it. Yeah, trust me. I know. He's not wearing my last name on his back on Sundays. That's for sure. All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening as always. If you have anybody else that follows football or just appreciates good conversation around NFL and college, please check us out on both the college and NFL podcasts. NCAA is starting to wind down a little bit now that we're into bowl season, but as we went through today, we ended up having a really good conversation. And actually, you had a history lesson. We unlocked a new segment in the NCAA show where Workman is going to try to guess the mascots for obscure teams. So that should be fun. And yeah, we're very quickly rolling up into playoff season for both of these. So as
invitational.
Invitational. Since
we're not using that word. There's no playoff in college football.
You guys have no idea how hard it was for me to get him to even show up this week after that whole Florida State nonsense. Yeah. So for fine citizen on the other side of the screen, Mr. Jacob Workman, I am Reese Downing. This is TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL edition week 14. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. Cheers.
Yep.
And
yeah, and we're not ending with a go Colts this week. It's going to be an eat 'em up Lions, eat 'em up.
We done boys.